Hello friend, welcome back. In our previous video, we successfully created 3 constructor function, right? As a local storage, task, and then UI. And into this index, I have already get our specific click, that is our query selector, that is one of the class name, and also that have one of the ID, right? I have already get both of these, and now that means here I have already get all that our input value. Now I want to save this input value visibly in here. Okay, so if you want to do that work, I want to work into the another constructor function that I have created in our UI. So first of all, I want to load our UI, because from to this position I already export this UI, I export this task, right? I want to add both of these in our this index.js. So if you want to export it, what exactly you have to do? I hope you already remember that will be the input, right? There is the input, and then that will be our name it as UI. Make that your the name, that is a UI, right? So that is our UI, and UI will be comes from our which place. So first of all, that will be into the same page right now, and that is our UI. Okay, that is UI.js. I simply loaded that things in here, and also the same things I want to apply for the our task. Better I want to input, I name it as a task. So I copy it, so that will be as a task from, okay, tags from, and then the same our place as a tags.js. Okay, I simply loaded both of these here into the tags. I have already created one of the function name as a tags, and then I have passed one of the parameter as a title, right? So when you access with this title, we'll get our total object data. So it will be return one of the total object data, because that is also all that our property. You can see there is ID property, title, and then is complete. So that is one of the object data. If you want to get this data, then here, okay, right now we don't need this. I want to first of all create one of the object. Okay, I want to create a new object. I take one of the variable as a constant variable. Sorry, there is a constant variable, and I just name it as a task. And then I want to create another new object. So there is a new, and here I pass it by the name. I name it as a task, right? I pass it is with the task. So now with this task, as I told you, that will be return one total object. So with this title, I want to access our total object. So here I pass on the parameter as a title. So now I want to pass this our task, that is a task title here as a parameter. Okay, so I simply pass it. So now if you but I show you, then everything will be more clear with this console log. Okay, console. There is a console log. Into this console log area here, I want to display our this tags. Okay, so now I want to pass it. Now what exactly the data it should be do? Click as a save all, and now if you go our page, now refresh it. Now you can see there is the same error. I have already discussed about that things with you. There is a cannot use input statement outside the module. So when you get this type of one of the error, what exactly you have to do? In our index, into this index, I have already loaded that index. You can see index.js. So here only you have to pass one of the type as a module, right? Module. So make that sure you add it. So then that will be totally gone. Click as a save all. Now go there, click as a refresh. You can see it's not totally gone. And now I want to add it. Okay, I name it as a new work. Okay, new work. I want to add this type of the text. Now click as a add. Yes, you can see it's now created one of the object. I hope friend it's very much clear to you right now. It's now created one of the object as an ID, and into this ID it's passed that our time, and then is complete it's passed that as a false, because I have already make it as a false. Okay, default I make it as a false. You can see, which is totally fine. And also there is our title. I have passed the title name as a new work, because that is the our which title. Here I have already get this title. I hope everything will be more clear right now. You can see there is a document. I have already get our input, that is our one of the ID. So with this ID, I get that input value, right? I get that input value. I take the things in here for the reasons here. I pass it in our this parameter area. Now you can see it's now perfectly display our this title. Okay, and also it's return one of the object. And now is executed from where? It's now executed our which function? That is a task function. Right, there is another constructor function as a task function. So now that's all that value here. Now I want to pass it in our UI, right? Because with this UI, I want to visible it in here. I hope friend you get some of the idea. So now that is our task. So into this task, it's return one of the objects. This object now I want to display into the with the UI in here. right? Now we have to work into the UI. Like if you go to our index for the first time, I want to create one of the object for this UI. So I take one of the constant variable, I just name it as a UI, okay, UI. And then I want to create one of the object for the UI, so I make it as one of the create on the object for this UI. I have already get that our UI, I imported it with the name as a UI, okay. And if you go here, you can see there is a function name as UI. So I created one of the object, and now I want to pass our all the task into this task area, all that our object, right? So this object value, I want to pass it in our this UI function. Okay, just simply understand step by step all that process. So here for the reasons I want to do after this, okay, here I want to create one of the prototype as a UI, okay. I name that as a UI, and then I name that prototype name as a add, okay, add to UI. So I name it as a add to UI, and into this UI area here I want to pass our object data. Object data means what? I have already take this object data, I check it with the console log, that is our task, because that is all that our object data, right? Here I simply pass it. I hope friend it's very clear. Now I want to do, I have already get all that our object in our UI. Now into this UI area I want to load it. Okay, so if I want to load it, first of all I want to declare that prototype, that will be the UI. So now with this UI I want to add that as a prototype. Okay, our prototype name, what exactly that name I have write down in here, our prototype name as a add to UI. I copy it, then that will be as a add to UI. And then that will be our function, okay, that is our function. And into this function area here I want to, into particular that position I want to pass our parameter. Our parameter will be what? Here I pass that parameter as a task, right? So that will be all that our object right now in particular this position, so that is our task. Okay, here I want to pass it. So now I want to display. Okay, that means I want to get our all that object data and to display in our UI like that way. Okay, first of all we have to find out this part. If you go to our index, into this index, you can see that is actually our total task, right? Better I want to do, I copy it, and before we have already done this type of one of the work, like I just copy it now in our UI. Okay, here better I want to save it first with this comment out. I make some of the comment out, and then that will be added comment out. Okay, here I want to paste it. I get some of the references from here. And now that is our task. I want to add one of the element. Okay, that means the HTML element. So I take that name as a late, and I just name it as a new HTML, right? So that will be as a new HTML. I name it as a new HTML, whatever the name actually choose. And now into the backtick, here I use that as a backtick. Okay, into this backtick area I want to load our this div. So I simply now cart it. I cart this div, and then in our this backtick area here I want to paste it, and also I make it as a semicolon, which is totally fine. Okay friend, and now you can see every data, that means object data, if you now check it, now you can see that is our ID, that is one of the is completed, and that is our title. Right now if you go, you can see that is our one of the attribute, that is a data create date, as here that will be our ID, and then here I want to display our which things I want to display the title, right? So here I remove it, and then if you want to add it, what exactly you have to do? First of all, that was a dollar, and then the curly bracket, and I have already get all the data with this task, right? So now with this task I want to access our which things, I want to access this ID. Now I want to display our property as an ID. Okay, great. And also the same things I want to apply for the title. So here I simply update that with this task, our name as a title. Now I want to copy it, then that will be our object property name as a title. And then what exactly you have to do? Now that is one of the div. So this div will be added in here, right? So for that, there have another ID. If you go to our index.html, there is one task, there is another task, and you can see that is the task list. Now we have to add this div task in our this task list area. Simple work that I have already done before. Now we have to add it in our UI. Okay, here after this I want to do, okay, here I want to add that will be the document, and then what, I hope you already remember, there is a document, and with the query selector, first of all we have to get that our class name, right? So our class name here, our class name as a task list. I copy it, that will be as a task list. I simply loaded this task list, and then also we have to do that means when you insert it, last one will be displayed into the first. So here there is also I have discussed about another method as insert adjacent HTML. Remember, as a after beginner, so I want to call this method as a insert. You can see there is an insert adjacent element HTML. So here I want to call this, and I want to pass that our that is will be one of the position. Our position will be into the first. Okay, so I make it as a after begin. You can see that is our already suggested as a after begin. I simply loaded this after begin. Our which things I want to load our this element, or that is all a new HTML. Okay, I simply pass it in here. Okay friend, that's all. Now that should be successfully display in particular that position. I hope every part is very much clear. All right friend, now let's check this out. If you now click as a save all, and now if you go, I want to refresh it, and I want to refresh, and then I want to make it as a REN. Okay, I make it as one of the another text as a REN work. Okay, REN work, and now if you click as a add task, you can see it's now successfully added, and that is our object data. So this object data, you can see here I make now into the UI area that will be displayed. I hope every part is very clear. So now if you want to add new one, click as a add task, new task is added, click as a new one, click as a add task, new task is added. Okay, but here one thing, as I told you before, when you submit, after that submit I want to make it as a clean. Okay, you can see when you actually submit new one, that is actually remaining in here. So I want to do when that will be submitted, then this all that form data will be removed. For the reasons I want to create another function in our index. Okay, after this in our UI area I want to create it, so that will be as a UI, and into this UI I want to call that as a reset form. Okay, reset form. I want to call this method as a reset form. Now we have to create this prototype as a reset form prototype in our UI. Right, now go to our UI, and into this UI that is our total one, and then there is our another one, so that is actually started and ended in here. Right, so after this I want to that is our last one, right? Yes, that is our last one. So here I want to add another one, so that will be as a UI, same procedure. Okay, same procedure, that is UI, and then I want to add that prototype, that is a UI prototype, and our prototype name as a reset form. Right, here I have already named it as a reset form. Make sure your spelling is correct. And now into this reset area I want to add another function. Okay, that will be another function. I simply loaded this function, that is our function. And into this function area, what exactly we have to do? Like if you go to our index, because that is one of the input field, right? Into this input field I want to make it as a clean. So if you go to our index.html, for the input field, you can see that is our input field, our ID as a new task ID. So this task with this ID I want to make it as a empty value. If you want to add this empty value, then first of all we have to take it, so that will be as a document, and then the query selector. So with this query selector I want to get this ID. When that will be as ID, that will be as a hash, and then ID name. Right, and after that our value. So that is our value. I want to make this value. I want to make this value will be as a empty. Okay, so that's the simple things now we have to apply in here. Okay, great. So that's all. Now our prototype, our reset form, that is a function. Into this function area I simply get our, with this query selector, our ID. So that is our input field ID. This ID field value will be as a empty. Okay, for the reasons here I make this value will be as a empty. Now let's check this out. Click as a save all. Now go there, click as a refresh. Now you can see when you refresh, all the data is gone. Because of all, I didn't save this data into the local storage. Laterally we'll save this data into the local storage, then every data will be stay in here. Right, so right now I make it as a new one. Now click as add text, and you can see when any new text is added, our input value is now become null. Okay, so now that is I make it as a null. And now you can see it's not totally great. Now we make it as a REN work. Okay, REN work, add it, there is a add text, successfully done. That is totally empty. Great. In our next video I want to work in our this checkbox. When you select it, then that will be as a selected. That means this work is done. And also I want to work into the delete button. Okay, how can do that work? In our next video, I will show you that things with a live example. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.